Life is a truly amazing phenomenon. While we know we are alive, exactly what the nature of life is still eludes science. What scientific research has done is entirely on the physical nature of life. It does not preclude some form of spiritual nature. In the present discussion, we focus on the scientifically accessible physical nature of life and will not speculate on any spiritual nature. What follows are some amazing things that science does tell us about the nature of life. This evidence itself should be enough to eliminate a naturalistic origin of life, as well as eliminate the Darwinian concept of the evolution of all life on Earth from a single common ancestor. There are two basic cell types, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Prokaryotic cells lack membrane-bound organelles. They are as simple as living things get, yet they are still incredibly complex. For example, they do not have a nucleus, but their DNA is spread throughout the entire cell. In fact, it has nearly all of the organelle functions, but they are just spread throughout the cell. There are two types of prokaryotic cells, bacteria and archaea. Bacteria are the simplest form of life known to exist. However, they are still amazingly complex. Like other cells, they have molecular machines and much of the same equipment, just not within internal membranes. What is interesting about these cells is that they have little molecular machines called the flagellum. That's actually a little motorboat engine that propels the bacteria through their environment. Archaea are almost identical in characteristics to bacteria, but they have distinct molecular characteristics that separate them from bacteria. Eukaryotic cells have a nucleus and other organelles enclosed within membranes. They consist of plant and animal cells. Animal cells have a nucleus and other organelles enclosed within membranes. This includes several mitochondria organelles that provide energy. The entire cell is encased in a cell membrane. Plant cells have a lot in common with animal cells, but they have two additional features. Chlorophyll, by which plants convert light from the sun into energy they and other living things can use, and cell walls, which keep the cell rigid and strong. When cells were first discovered in 1665, they actually looked quite simple. Through an optical microscope, cells looked like little more than bags of fluid with a nucleus. This view of a living cell made abiogenesis look quite feasible. However, this changed with the invention of the electron microscope in 1931. It revealed that the structure of living cells is far more organized and complex than had previously been imagined. It has shown the existence of organelles and other structures that should have killed the idea of abiogenesis. What keeps abiogenesis going is a prior commitment to natural causes and not actual science. The information storage system of life consists of deribonucleic acid, or DNA for short. This information storage system is a quaternary digital storage system with many complexities. It is the densest known storage system, being encoded at the molecular level. DNA is packaged in the form of chromosomes and comes in strands of DNA that are wrapped up for storage. Segments of DNA are unwrapped for reading and other functions. One of the main functions of DNA is encoding the information needed for cells to produce the proteins and enzymes that they need, otherwise they would die. The amazing information storage system that is DNA cannot be compared to anything made by man. Nothing even comes close to the sophistication and complexity of life's information storage system we call DNA. This stored information is one of the most critical components of life, and it is one of the things that clearly distinguishes it from non-living material. A protein is a molecule containing long chains of amino acids, composition of which is encoded by DNA. The DNA is transcribed into RNA by a molecular machine called a RNA polymerase. The RNA is then used by another molecular machine called the ribosome. To perform the function for which they were made, each protein has to be folded into a particular shape as needed by the cell. This folding has to be done exactly right or it can cause problems. Once folded, the protein is usually used in the construction of the various molecular machines used by the cell. Among the amazing things about living organisms that show up even in the simplest living things are the amazing molecular machines used by cells. These molecular machines carry out numerous functions within the cell, being built from protein manufactured based on the information in DNA. Here are some examples of some of these molecular machines. DNA is not self-replicating, but copying DNA requires several molecular machines that unwind it, separate it, transcribe it, and rewind it. Transposing DNA information to RNA involves a molecular machine called an RNA polymerase that separates the DNA, transposes it to RNA, then reconnects the DNA. A ribosome is a molecular machine that uses RNA to manufacture proteins on demand. Another molecular machine then folds the protein strand into the exact shape needed for its job. Motor proteins carry proteins to where they are needed in the cell. The proteins are carried in bags called vesicles. These motor proteins carry the vesicles by walking along tubules. The bacterial flagellum is a molecular machine used by bacteria to move through their environment. It is literally a molecular electric motor with all the parts you would see in any electric motor made by man. It even has a universal joint, so the flagellum can turn as it rotates. These are just a small example of molecular machines found in living cells. You don't see them mentioned much in discussions of evolution by evolutionists because they make poor pro-evolutionary propaganda. Furthermore, the reality is that there is no real evolutionary explanation for these molecular machines, many of which are absolutely essential to the organism's survival. Multicellular life is simply life that consists of more than one cell. You don't have to look far to find examples of multicellular life because we are everywhere. I say we're everywhere because we are examples of multicellular life. The simplest form of multicellular life is considered to be a 4-cell species of algae called Tetrabadnea socialis. It was given this name because it resembles a 4-leaf clover. However, calling it multicellular life is actually a bit of a stretch. It qualifies as multicellular life only in the sense that there is more than one cell. It is more like a cluster of 4 separate organisms rather than a single organism. Furthermore, there is a huge leap to what is next in line. Sponges are the simplest organisms that truly qualify as multicellular. They are clearly more than just a simple colony of cells because they have a structure and a life history that shows they are a single organism. One thing that distinguishes true multicellular life from a simple colony of single-celled organisms is the ability to make complex structures. This is done by being able to create different cell types within the group, something a simple colony lacks. With this differentiation of cells, complex machines can be made to do various jobs within the body of the overall organism. The ability of multicellular organisms to produce different types of cells for different functions is one of the amazing aspects of living things. Within the human body alone, there are numerous different types of cells. Cellular differentiation is an example of epigenetic turning on and off genes. The genes that are turned on and off are what determine what type of cell a given cell will be. Among the types of differentiated cells are blood cells, neural cells, bone cells, muscle cells, and much more. It is this differentiation of cells that allows multicellular organisms to produce complex structures. This ability to produce different kinds of cells, as well as having the genetics for these different kinds of cells, is one of the things that makes universal common descent evolution unrealistic. It adds another layer of organized complexity to living systems beyond the overwhelming organized complexity of a single cell. So, what is life? Despite everything we have learned about life, in some ways we still do not know exactly what it is. We can define life based on the properties that it has, but that is it. In the end, we really do not have a clear-cut definition of life, even though we can distinguish life from death. The amazing nature of life is ultimately beyond our comprehension, despite the fact that we ourselves are examples of living beings. We know that life consists of a highly organized, complex arrangement of chemicals and chemical reactions, but that is not all that it is. There is much about life that science has yet to unveil, and perhaps may never do so. In conclusion, the nature of life is truly amazing, and we have only begun to touch the surface of that nature. The simple fact is that life is more than chemicals. At the very least, it is a highly organized, complex arrangement of chemicals and chemical processes. Include the fact that cells manufacture and use numerous molecular machines, and it becomes even more amazing. Life's amazing nature speaks plainly against a naturalistic origin of life and strongly in favor of intelligent design by God. The notion that life came into existence spontaneously by natural processes and then developed due to mutations in natural selection results from an anti-scientific determination to exclude God. Ultimately, life attests to the glory of God.